On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're in Southport, Connecticut, visiting the cozy family home of chef and content creator Kat Ashmore. Kat's home beautifully reflects New England tradition and is enhanced with collected touches like whimsical wallpaper, antique furniture, and captivating artwork. Kat is a go-to expert for all things delicious and nourishing. As a professionally trained chef and former producer and recipe developer for Martha Stewart, Kat shares her culinary expertise from her charming Connecticut kitchen to millions of people online. So get ready for a tour filled with warmth, inspiration, and plenty of culinary creativity. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Kat. Welcome to my home in Connecticut. Come on in. I'm Kat Ashmore. You may also know me as Kat Can Cook. I am a cookbook author, food and lifestyle social media creator, and television personality. And I'm really excited to have you here. So right now you are at my home in Southport, Connecticut. It is part of Fairfield County in Connecticut, about an hour from New York City. And the feeling that I really wanted to capture in this home was really staying true to the traditional Connecticut, New England style, while also mixing in some more eclectic and collected touches, sort of British country, traditional Connecticut vibes. When we found this home, my husband joked that there is no such thing as turnkey for myself, and I think a lot of people understand that. I'm always going to want to make changes. So really what made us select this home was the location. It's in a wonderful neighborhood. We can walk to town where there are little coffee shops and markets, and we're also about a 15-minute walk to the beach on both sides, which is really lovely. And the lot itself, it's not a massive lot, but we have made it really usable, and it sort of felt like this retreat on the weekends, and we just don't want to leave. This room is sort of our formal sitting living room. Really, everything was based around two pieces in this room. The sofa that was actually a wedding gift from my uncle, who is an artist and a designer. I just love it so much. It's this beautiful sloped vintage piece. And I had these two panels of artwork done by the amazing Kirsten Tierney. It was my first time ever having custom artwork made, and she is just a complete genius. She uses tools to make these really beautiful billowy florals, and it's sort of abstract, it's warm, it's a real statement piece for this room. And I also like the fact that with two small kids, I knew that these needed to be in a room where they weren't going to be having pillow fights. So they're somewhat protected here. I have a lot of, as you can probably tell, I'm a big fan of neutrals, and then adding in pops of color and lots of texture for warmth. You will see throughout my home some examples of, again, I learned a lot from my uncle, who is an artist and a designer. He talks a lot about rooms needing to have tension and needing to have conversation with pieces that you wouldn't necessarily expect to have in that room, and that it all adds a lot of depth and keeps it from feeling like it's just a page out of any catalog you could pick up, right? So I added in some color. These pillows are by Pepper Home, which is a great resource for practically custom pillows, but much more streamlined. I love their company so much. And then these are vintage finds from Cherish. I'm going to be saying the word cherish a lot. It is like my version of, TikTok or Tinder for some people. I will just scroll at night on Cherish, and I could get completely lost in there. It is an amazing vintage and antique website. So I brought in a little pops of color. I think that the pinks and the reds, they're not overwhelming, but they add some warmth and some personality into this room that otherwise feels quite traditional and, you know, a bit rustic, I would say. I love this settee. It's quite a long room and it's fairly narrow, but we've been able to create a really nice seating and conversation area here, which is great. Again, I love to read here. We like to play chess. You will find a chess set underneath there. My style is very high-low. It's very collected. It's very mixed, whether it's, you know, what I'm wearing, what I'm eating, how I'm decorating my room. So there are some great pieces that, like this, that we found for $50 on Facebook Marketplace, and it houses my pretty extensive china and dinnerware collection. So that is coming really handy. And then we have this lovely Dutch door here that goes out into our backyard and our covered seating area. I really love this moment here, especially when there's a fire going in the winter time. It feels very warm, a little bit equestrian, again, sort of a nod. This is some British country art that I found via a vintage source, and it's just a really inviting and lovely moment. I found that I've gotten quite sentimental as I've gotten older, and I love incorporating pieces that are hand-me-downs from family, and these end tables were a must for me. These were in my grandparents' home in North Haven, Connecticut, and I love them so much, and I think about them every time that I'm in this room. Now let's go into the dining room. Follow me. Before we head into the living room, I want to mention this piece. I often talk about the fact that really you should think outside of the box in terms of what can go on your wall and what can become art. And this is actually a vintage swan tray that I love so much. I just said to myself, I don't want to just use it once in a while. I want to have it on my wall where I can see it multiple times a day. It makes me very happy. And now we'll come into our dining room. This dining room is quite small, as you can tell, and I love that about it. You know, when we moved into this house, there were some talks around, you know, blowing out the walls and making the ceilings higher. I want my spaces to hold me. I want my rooms to feel like a warm hug, and this room feels like a warm hug to me. It's really intimate and really, really fun to be in here. As you can see, we have the table set because we're going to be having some birthday dinners, actually 2 this week, and nothing makes me happier than setting a table. When I am doing a tablescape, I am really looking at, again, incorporating different textures and colors. I like to be fairly practical and not just have a ton of stuff that is going to make it too hard to eat. And I really like to combine different types of dishes and china. So these are Richard Ginori dishes, which I love so much. My family took a trip to Italy, and it was exactly this line of his dishes that was in the hotel, and it brings back really nice memories. We've got a lot of texture in the chargers. I love a woven charger like this because I just find it to be evergreen. You can use it all year round. It makes it so easy to set a table. And I'm also not a fussy person. As much as I love really beautiful rooms, I don't want my spaces to look like you're in a museum, you're afraid to touch anything. I've got a 5 and an 8-year-old, so that is just not practical. I want to enjoy our spaces. So yes, you can use linen napkins, but may I suggest a dark color. I love this piece. This is an Etsy find, which can be dangerous, but it has gotten me a lot of great pieces. I'm obsessed with this color. Green is my favorite. You may not be able to tell yet, but you will. And this really kind of makes the room. It's really practical. I hold a lot of our table linens, and I think that having something whimsical in every room, my mother has often said that every room needs a touch of whimsy, and I agree with that, so that it doesn't feel overly serious and stuffy. And to know me is to know that I do not take I am very easy to laugh at myself. I love to have fun. We have a lot of fun in our house, so it's true to who I am. So these are some really beautiful botanical drawings that I sourced. It came as a set of 3, and I decided to break them up to not to overwhelm the wallpaper and to still let that shine. So I've got those in here. These are another vintage find. I'm a big fan of vintage artwork. Now we're entering the part of the house that we did a lot to. We did gut the kitchen. And we made a lot of structural changes to this part of the home. One of them was that this was closed off, and I really wanted to open it up while still keeping it separate. I am not a fan of a totally open floor plan for myself and for my family because the kids can be a lot and I still need places to hide. But I do like to have a nice flow and to be able to kind of see what's going on in the kitchen and the family room, and to also have, you know, a nice vantage point into the dining room, especially with this beautiful wallpaper. It's really nice to look at. And now I'd love to show you the kitchen. Come on in. Now, it's no surprise that this is my favorite part of the house. Any of you that follow me on social media, you are very familiar with this space. This is my kitchen. We did a lot of work in this space. When we saw the house, it was a nice kitchen before, but I knew that this was my opportunity to really build out my dream kitchen. It's where, you know, I'm shooting my next cookbook this week, actually. I do all of my videos here. I shoot television from here. So it truly is sort of my studio, as well as where we spend probably 80% of our time in this house. The first thing that I knew I wanted was to have a massive island. So this was the largest piece of stone that we could get that was just one piece, and it didn't leave a lot of room for just kind of hanging out in the kitchen. But the way that I thought about it was, you know, unless we're dancing or cooking, we're going to be sitting here. So this is really where we have our meals during the week. We go into the dining room on the weekends, and we have breakfast, we play games, the kids color, of course, I cook, and I shoot all of my videos for social media here. But it has been a great decision to have an island that is this big. So it does house 7 people, so 7 people can dine here. Of course, lots of standing room. You can pull up other chairs if you need to. And there's tons of storage, which of course, you know, as someone who is a cookbook author and food blogger and trained chef, I need a lot of storage because I have a lot of stuff. So it's been a dream. I have never had enough storage in my life for all of my kitchen stuff. So this has been great. These ovens, these Wolf ranges and ovens were already in the home, which was great. The previous owners didn't cook, so they're pretty much in perfect condition, which is a huge win for me. But we have the double ovens, we have the 6 ranges, and that's been fantastic. But everything in here is completely new, and it is exactly what I wanted. So when we first looked at the house, there was an island, but the island was quite thin. I would say probably half the size of this in width, and it ran this way with the seating facing here. So everything was turned around. We moved the stove, the fridge, we added tons of storage, of course, and I knew that I just wanted to flip it all around so that I got lots of light from both sides, but nothing that was directly on my face, especially when you're shooting television or social media. That's important, having good lighting. So all of the natural light in here has been phenomenal to have. This entire area is new. This actually used to be a bit of a mud room. So it was like a very thin mud room that had some storage, and I guess where the kids would kind of like put their backpacks and coats and things like that. But we decided to make this into the sink counter so that you have the sink over here, any dirty dishes, any clean dishes that need to be put away, they're all over here, they're out of sight, and I can kind of be in this space that is nice and free. If we're entertaining, it's an open kitchen, but you're also not staring at dirty dishes because the sink is in the island. So I really like having the sink separately. I also really wanted it to be more pleasurable to do dishes by having a window here and, you know, to be able to look at nature and get some sunlight in, which is a nice treat. For my kitchen, when I was actually designing it, I knew that I wanted it to feel like a bright and airy space, lots of neutrals. You know, I would say probably 75% of the house is painted white dove, and it's just that really perfect warm white. Now, I wanted it to be neutral so that I was really able to focus on my food and let the food be the hero of my content and my photos and my videos. With that said, I'm always looking for how can I add in warmth and texture. So we have some nice texture, which with these stools, these are Serena and Lily stools, and I swear by these because they're so easy to clean. My kids get spaghetti sauce on them. I mean, it just wipes off. So that is a must. And then over here, you'll see I have lots of touches, like this vintage ship mirror. I have some platters up here. These are Bordello Panero, and then this is Richard Ginori. Again, lots of green and white. I've got this, beautiful little rechargeable lamp and tons of greenery. I am a plant lady through and through. I love them so much. I call it plant therapy. If I'm having a bad day, I will go off to this store, Terrain, or one of the many beautiful garden centers around here. And I always feel a little bit better after I get plants and flowers. So I make sure that I have that. People always ask me, where do I put all of the kids' stuff? Like, how is everything so clear? Number one, it's not always so clear, okay? My house looks like it's lived in, because it is. But storage is really important. So you will see a lot of baskets. We've got, these cane baskets. I've got this one that I use as a bread basket. I've got little random papers and things like that. In this one, you will also see over here, I love to reuse things like the Fortnum and Mason tea baskets. So this is just for the junk that kind of accumulates. I have a 5-year-old girl, and the amount of tchotchkes that she has in her backpack on a daily basis, I'm like, where have you been? Because you were not at school. Like, where are you collecting all this stuff? So that goes in here, and then once a week, we're just able to clear it out. The other touches that are really nice is that we have a couple of beverage fridges here in the island, which is really nice. It frees up very precious real estate in the main refrigerator for all of the food. But as you see, I mean, we have storage all through here, right? So pots, pans, I have all of my different silverware through here. We have, of course, my spice cabinet and things like that, and then nice deep cabinets throughout, and all the way around the island is storage. So even on that side, those are all open cabinets. So, I love a beautiful space, but function always has to come first, especially with this being my job. And then here's a little hidden door where we have our Amazon Echo to listen to podcasts and music, our little coffee station, and that kind of just gets put away there for us. I actually didn't even go to culinary school until I was 28 years old. I had started in marketing, and I had always loved to cook, but I was under the impression that the only jobs available to you would be owning a restaurant or working in a restaurant, and that wasn't a direction I wanted to go in. And then when I went to tour a couple of culinary schools in New York City, I got a feel for just how big that world could be. And so I knew I wanted to go into the food media and food business side of the food industry. So after going to culinary school, which, my objective was just to really learn from the best, to sort of get the proper credentials to be able to speak the language of food, to understand the science behind cooking and baking and why things work, which I talk to my communities about a lot. I think when you understand the why, then it starts to become fun, because that's when you really know how to cook. If you're only just reading recipes, it's like following a GPS to get everywhere. You don't actually know where you're going. You're just kind of following steps. And I want more for you than that. So that's what I always try to do, is talk about the why, and then you can be creative on your own. That is really the first step to being able to be creative in the kitchen. So after spending my time working at Martha Stewart, I was on the food producer team on her television show, The Martha Show, and then I went over to corporate and was in recipe and product development over there. But I didn't start my own business until 2020. And that was really when I started creating on social media. I started my website, KathleenAshmore.com, and started posting my recipes, started posting food and lifestyle content. And Martha has always been an inspiration to me in that way as well, because, she started in catering, and food is so much at the center of who she is and what she loves, but it's really about creating this whole experience and telling this full story. And it bleeds into all different areas of her life. And she has so many different interests, whether it's gardening or fashion or, makeup and skincare or, pets. I have learned a lot about that. And I think as women, we can have a tendency to feel like we need to stay in our lane when the truth is that I am my lane. I am my niche. You are your lane. You are your niche. So expand, that's a beautiful thing. I'm someone that really loves to surround myself with people that are smarter than me. And I am like a sponge when I'm inspired by someone. So having worked for Martha Stewart after culinary school and being able to see her in her element and really get such an incredible education and be so inspired by her and making spaces around her beautiful, but also in a highly practical way. She is not a fussy or overly precious person, and that is very much how I live my life as well. It's why my nails are never super long, because I'm using them for everything. I'm outside in the dirt and I'm cooking, I'm doing all of those things. I think having that type of attitude and perspective about your spaces is part of what allows other people to come in and feel really at ease and at home. And one of the things that people tell me most, and my husband always laughs oh God, she loves to hear that, is how cozy and welcoming my house is. I think they know they can put their feet up and they don't have to worry about, knocking something over or spilling something. I'm not very fussy about any of that. I want people to have fun. So right off the kitchen is our family room, and this is the open concept part of the home. This is where, truthfully, the kitchen and the family room is where we spend our entire lives, to be honest. And I love it that way. I love the fact that the kids can be in here while I'm cooking. If we have people over, we live in this space. Right, buddy? So do you. This is Calhoun. He also lives in this space. And in this room, this is where we have the high ceilings. So this area was an addition to the original home that they had put in. So it has always had these sloped high ceilings. We added shiplap on top, and then we just adore how much light we get in this room. Of course, we have our window treatments that can make it really cozy and block some of that out, but it is a very happy, homey, cozy space. As we said, lots of plants. My husband never misses an opportunity to make between two ferns jokes because of my love for ferns. And yes, just a very happy space. This is my little corner where I meditate. I do transcendental meditation twice a day. And every morning, this is my little corner where I don't bring my phone. I have my book that I read after my meditation, and it's just a really peaceful spot. If my kids see me here, they know not to disturb me yet. Took a little training on that one, but we are finally there. Huge fan of coffee table books, but not only that, huge fan of actually reading coffee table books because they are much more than just a beautiful, piece of decor. So I like to make sure that they are out, that you have a lot of access to them, and that I'm just flipping through them for inspiration, which I do often. Bunny Williams, India Hicks, Aaron Lauder, Mark Sykes, and Martha Stewart are some of my favorites. You're not surprised about Martha, right? It probably should have led with her. But in this room, again, blues and greens are my favorite combination. Green's my favorite color. So we've got a lot of neutrals in here, but tons of texture. You see a lot of wicker and rattan and velvet, and I think it just makes it feel very welcoming. At least I hope so. So we do have this sectional in here, which we've had for a few years now. This is a room and board sectional, and it has been great if you have kids, pets. As you saw, Calhoun is on the couch all the time and he sheds a lot. I love you, but it's true. And the kids are always jumping all over the sofa. So I could not have a sofa that was too precious, that I was going to be stressing myself out all the time if there was a spill in here. The kids even have their snacks in here on a nightly basis. This sectional has been great. As a family, we love to do family movie nights and all kind of cuddle up, and there's also plenty of space as the kids get a little bit older and don't want to be cuddled by me as much, but I'm going to force them to for as long as I can. So we've got this nice big sectional, and then these two chairs here are great. It's not a massive space, so I didn't want anything overpowering. These are by Coley Home, and this nice performance linen. I love this sort of bluish gray color, and I purposefully make it so that the furniture doesn't match in my rooms. You may have noticed that, but it, again, like my uncle always says, it creates a conversation. So it complements each other, but it's not too matchy-matchy. So for instance, I have this black pedestal table. I have no other black furniture, but I have the black countertops in the kitchen. So there's little pops and then all different kinds of wood. I'm not someone who thinks that you have to stick with, one type of wood finish or even two types. I think you can have more of a cherry look. I think you can have a painted wood. I think you can have black. I think you can have brass and glass, and it all just, if you love it, it will work. That's my motto. As I've said, in each room, I feel like you need to have something that doesn't feel so serious, that is a bit whimsical, that has some personality, and this light fixture really does that for me. So I think the safe bet would be to go for a more traditional light, but I love the attitude of this chandelier. It's really large, which works well for the high ceilings, and it makes a real statement. It's fun. It's that striking balance of elegant and fun, which I'm always looking to achieve. So in here, you'll also see that I have this very large piece of floral art again, but a very different kind of floral art from the custom panels by Kirsten Tierney that are in the front. So this is just this giant vintage piece. I think it was Provençal. I believe it was a French artist that created this. And of course, these are my colors. So it spoke to me. This was like the deal of the century that I found. And it just happens to work absolutely perfectly. And I think that having a couple of pieces that are grand, whether it's the light fixture, art like this, having wicker columns here, the wicker pedestals, all of that just kind of makes a statement within the room, and I think it can do a lot to elevate a space. One of the mistakes that I've made in the past, and I know some people kind of struggle with, is grouping too many small things, whether it's on a shelf or a coffee table or on a wall, and they just kind of get lost without really saying very much. So yeah, I keep that in mind. So as you can imagine, I do need a large pantry, and so we created this pantry. We borrowed some space from the bathroom, which I will show you in a second. So the previous bathroom used to come all the way out to here, and I thought, we don't need that big of a bathroom. We need a good-sized pantry. So this is where all of our dry goods live. As you see, I've got some bananas for banana bread, and I have to leave them out so I don't forget about them, so that I make sure that I make them. But I've got things, I think, pretty well organized, but you can also tell that I cook, because I think sometimes pantries, for me, just would not be functional. They're beautiful, but not functional, and function always has to come first. So I think it's pretty organized. And I did have help in here organizing this by a friend of mine who is also an organizer. She really helped set me up with these great bins and everything for snacks for the kids. And we do have, chips and chocolate and granola bars and things like that. And, my kids eat all of it. It is all about balance in our house. The best advice I have for organization is to be realistic with yourself about how you live. What works in someone else's pantry is not necessarily going to work in your pantry. So make sure that you are prioritizing the things that you use the most, because I think it's so easy to set up an organization system that works really well for someone else, but then within a week, everything is completely disorganized again, because it's just not realistic for your lifestyle. So for me, I know that all of these snacks are things that get eaten very regularly. the chips, I just leave them there because the kids eat them so much that it doesn't make sense for them to be in one of these little bins down here. And then I bake a ton. So all of my baking ingredients are labeled and ready to go for me. So this here, you're probably wondering what the heck it is. It is not, one of my kids' art projects. This is actually written by Ferran Adrià, who is, the founder of the famed El Bulli restaurant in Spain, which won Best Restaurant in the World many, many years in a row. And I went to a lecture of his when he was coming out with a cookbook set that was thousands of dollars. And I went to a lecture of his, and after he was finished, he left the stage, and I asked if I could take one of the pieces that he had written on. He right here is explaining what an emulsion is, for example. And so I framed this, and it cost me nothing. Never mind thousands of dollars, but it cost me nothing. And it makes me very happy. So I've got that in here, and then I have just like a little board to do our meal planning and things like that. This has been a necessity. I'm also able to have some of our larger appliances here so that they aren't taking up space on my counter. Never been able to do that before, and that is a real treat. So things like the toaster oven, the Vitamix, the air fryer, things we use regularly, but I don't need to have right at my fingertips all the time. So now we can head upstairs, and I'll show you some of the rest of the house. And on the way, I'll point you to this gallery wall, which I had designed with frame bridge, and I love it, not only because, well, first of all, this always ends up feeling like a really daunting project to get your family photos and to choose which ones warrant being on your wall. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to start and leave myself some space to allow it to grow with us. But one of the things I like the most is that the frames are all different, but within the same family. So again, it feels really collected and complementary without feeling too matchy-matchy. So we'll come on into our primary bedroom. And this is a space that I really wanted to keep very calm, very soothing, light, bright, airy, but with a lot of texture. You're probably seeing a theme by now. So we've got this really nice textured knot rug, and then keeping it super simple. I've actually tried to go a little bit more minimalist with the pillows on my bed. My husband used to complain about how many decorative pillows. He used to joke, why don't we just put decorative pillows all the way to the end? Why don't we just do that? Just cover the whole surface. I was like, don't give me any ideas. So I'm pretty proud of myself for the restraint that I've been practicing. But we had all of these closets built for my husband, because I'll show you my closets in a second. But the existing closets worked for both the husband and the wife in this house's previous life. So my husband had some closets built for him. It works really well. We can keep our outerwear in there. And these are two nightstands that are vintage that a friend of mine found actually in New York City at an estate sale. And I love that it just adds that depth. Whereas if we had something that was a lighter wood, a beech wood, a white, it would have been fine, but it would have been expected. And this feels, again, like something that kind of grounds the space. And then these are my closets that are very nicely organized for the moment, but a great amount of storage for me to have. And then of course, we're able to walk into our primary bathroom. We have a lot of light and a sitting area that's right outside of our closet area, which is really lovely. And then this is our primary bathroom. I purposely chose to have this unexpected light fixture in here. Similar to what I chose for the family room, I like to have something a bit grand and unexpected. And this does not necessarily feel like a bathroom light, but I love the oversized drum light. My husband can just make it under here at 6 feet tall. So we just made it. Of course, the tub, I love so much. I love that it's right by all of the windows. The cafe curtains add a lot of warmth, but still allow a lot of light to get through. So now I'm going to show you my office, which is a newly designed room, and I could not be happier with it. So here in my office, I have really taken a lot of liberty to just make my heart very happy because I haven't had to consult my husband. It has been this room that really can be all of the girly, cozy, fun ideas, sort of bring them all together. This was a really tricky space because it's small and it sort of has an awkward layout. So this is the one room that I did have a friend's designer that she had introduced me to weigh in a little bit on bringing a lot of these pieces together. And it was her idea to actually put my vanity up against the wall. So this is my vanity. This is a very old desk that my uncle had gifted to me when I was a teenager, and I used it as a vanity then. So I love repurposing it, and it's really nice to see my daughter here getting ready with me, which always takes twice as long somehow. And yes, I just love it so much. And having all of this natural light has been really great for filming too, when I need to do something over here. And then over here, I've got this nice velvet blush seat, and then this beautiful custom-made ottoman. Lots of pattern play in here, which has been really fun to do. This carpet was cut out of a piece of carpet to almost cover the entire floor, so it gives it that really cozy underfoot feel. The wallpaper, of course, is a really fun part of this room. Lots of personality in here, that's for sure. And then this desk is by Celery Kemble, and it is fantastic. I feel like I will have this piece for a very, very long time. And behind here is where I have a lot of storage. Of course, my first cookbook is here. And since I do a lot of my meetings and calls right here, it's a great background to have. As you can see, I needed a lot of storage for books. I'm a big reader, and of course I have a ton of cookbooks. My entire collection is probably close to 300, but these are, this is probably 50% of them that I use, on a semi-regular basis. And when I say use, it's often flipping through them and reading stories and inspiration and things like that. Every once in a while, I will, cook out of them too, but every one of them has a story. For me, when I think about a home, I think of it as an extension of myself. I think of it as sort of my heart outside of my body, how I want people to feel when they are around me, the kind of friend I am, the kind of mother I am, the kind of boss I am, the kind of contributor I am to society. That's how I want people to feel as soon as they step into my home. So the core of me, which is someone that really values hospitality and making people feel welcome and seen, is I hope, very fluent throughout my home as well.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.